lean on your partner. I think that's completely huge. I think a lot of people think that as soon as you have a kid, your marriage is going to be exponentially better and it's going to be so much better. And that's completely false. It takes time. It takes a lot of rebuilding, but you have to lean on your partner and not just pretending you have everything figured out.
Welcome back to A Village in Progress. I'm your host, Alexis. This month, we're taking a moment to turn our attention to the fathers and father figures who have helped to shape our lives, those who are still with us and those we carry with us in our hearts. We'll be sharing conversations, stories, and reflections that honor the impact these relationships have on who we are, how we show up, and how we build our own villages today. So join me as we honor the fathers and father figures in our lives, because the strength of our village is shaped through love, lessons, and the connections we build and pass on together. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I just can't get enough of Ian on this podcast. It's so exciting to be able to talk to you so much. I mean, I just feel like it brings me a lot of joy to see your face and to get to talk to you. So I'm excited to have you back.
I feel like, is this the record for two people? This is the record for returning guests. So
yes, you hold the record for most returned guests. What would that be? Yeah, on the Village in Progress podcast.
On jacket, like the SNL 5-timers club. I should get the 2-timers.
Yeah, we'll work on that. We'll work on the merch, all the merch, and the loyalty merch.
Awesome.
We'll work on that. So this month we are really focusing on dads, what it means to be a dad, what we love about being a dad, what's hard about being a dad, what we miss about our dad. So we're really trying to cover everything we can. And, you know, on your and I's episode, we talked a lot about you sort of wanting to reconnect with dads and to grow that area of your village. So I thought as we start this month off of June and we're really celebrating fathers and father figures in our lives or that we are missing, I thought it would be really great if you and I could reconnect and talk about your experience as being a dad. And we can talk a little bit about like what you might be growing, but I thought it would just be interesting to hear. I haven't really known you as a father. I get to see pictures and I get to hear stories, and I have no doubt that you are a fantastic dad. But I don't really get to see that. So I'm really excited to kind of dive in and hear your experience and what it's been like for you.
Sure. No, yeah, I'm super excited. I think when I look back at my life, I think the most rewarding job and toughest job, obviously, is becoming a dad. And it's ever changing, but becoming a dad is very rewarding. And I'm happy to have a platform to speak about what it's like to become a dad. Kind of, you know, even I think the main goal of being a dad is that, you know, no dad is ever alone. And kind of back to your, you know, you need a village. I think I try to be the best dad I can, but even the best dads and super dads need a village. So I think it's so important that other dads talk to other dads, and I think it's just important to have a base and have a support system for other dads. But I think in terms of becoming a dad, when I became a dad, I don't think really anything really prepared me. You know,
I would say.
You're like, you know, it's one of those things that always says like, well, there's no manual to be a dad, and that's certainly right. I mean, you can read books and get advice and try to plan for it all, but you know, the reality is, you know, you're really trying to figure out everything as you go, and so it's an always learning exercise in terms of being a dad. And you know, when I had my first daughter, Belle, you know, everything seemed to really shift like overnight, obviously. And all my priorities just changed immediately. And so obviously when I'm responsible for this little tiny creature who depends on me for everything. So obviously just immediately all my priorities is shifted. So kind of fast forward to now, I have two daughters, as you know, Belle, who's 9, and Emma, who's 7. The cool thing is fatherhood is just always evolving. It's always changing. So it's an ever growing learning exercise, and it's just always keeps me on my toes, and there's always new surprises. So what you need what I provided for my kids, when they were toddlers, is obviously completely different from what they need as they're growing up now, as they're 7 and 9. So I'm constantly learning alongside, and I think that's the big key, is learning as you go. It's constantly changing, and I realize that the older they're getting, the more I'm realizing that parenting is really about preparing them for the world. So it's just keeping that evolving gate open, and trying to make sure that they're learning and from me, and I'm learning from them. So it's been really, really cool to see that process, and kind of looking back at old pictures, and seeing how things have changed, and just kind of see how I change as a person, and how they change as from little kids to bigger kids now. So it's just
Yeah.
a very amazing experience.
What is that age called, 7 to 9? Like
Pains in the
just big
asses.
kid? What?
I don't know, but everyone always says to me, like, just like I said, I have a lot of older friends too who are now dealing with like the 12, 13
Oh,
type
yeah.
of age, but they said, enjoy this while it lasts, enjoy it while it lasts. They still think you of as a superhero, and you're still daddy is number one and the best, but wait till they turn 12, 13, 14, everything shifts. So I'm enjoying this 7 to 9 age, because it's really a lot of fun, because I can go out with them. We can go out wherever and stay up late, and watch movies, and they're starting to understand things a little bit better. But and they still think they're superheroes. So hopefully I'm trying to keep that memory locked into them as long as possible.
What do you think when you first had your first daughter? What do you think surprised you the most?
Um, That's a good question. I think I think how my priorities just like immediately shifted. I thought it was going to be like a gradual shift, but it was literally just like immediate. Like all
Here's
my
a baby.
this little thing is depending on everything with me. But also, I think what shifted immediately too was my relationship with my wife, Lee. When you have a little kid, expect when they're firstborn. I mean, um, all of the support is really strictly, from the mother, because the mother is feeding them. Their mother is, the mother is really the natural one to step in those really first early months. But my shift immediately turned towards her, and thinking how good of a mother she was, and how lucky I was to be married to someone. Because you can be married to someone, but they could be a shitty mother, or they could be a shitty father. But I always knew that she was very maternal. And when we had that, when Belle, those first couple weeks, months, when things are just out of control, she was like captain of the ship, and she kept everything steady, and everything very, very, she always knew what was going on. So her kind of ease kept me at ease as well, and kind of just helped and tightened our relationship those first early weeks and months. It's obviously it's very, very hectic, but she was always steady at the wheel, and it kept me very, very confident as well, to that I could become a good father as well.
Did you think about ahead of time? Because I know, you take classes on like birthing and like what maybe to do, and like bottles and bread. Like there's all these classes, but there's no real classes on how to act as a parent. I think a lot of it is like in support, like you said, and supporting your wife, and she's supporting the baby and doing that. But did you think about ahead of time what kind of father you wanted to like show up as, based on either your experience with your dad or other dads you had seen? Like, did you give that any thought, or did you just think maybe it would come to you?
Well, I think I had an idea in my head of how I was gonna be a father. I mean, I think to take a step back, for whatever reason, I always thought I was gonna have a boy, just because I'm such like a guy's guy, and I like to play all sorts of sports, and not saying that girls can't do that, but I was just always thinking that I would have like a little boy next to me, watching watching the Phillies, or watching the hockey game next to me. So when we found out we were having a girl, like everything just like completely, like it was just like, okay, wait, what the hell? I'm having a girl? Like I
Yeah,
didn't know.
did you panic?
it was a bit of I had like that night, I think I panicked just be like, because like, okay, I'm having a drug. I know nothing about girls in that way. Like, do I have what it takes to be a girl dad? Do I think I can? I have nothing. I know nothing about, I obviously I know about girls that kind of on the surface level, but I don't know anything about
Right.
what it takes on that emotional level. And I still don't, but still learning. So that was just the immediate shock of what I mean of having an actual girl is just what am I going to be able to do? How am I going to be? But I try to. I'm the type of person that tries not to stress about things that I can't control, and I just let it ride, and I know I'm going to be good at it, and just let it see how it works out. So that's kind of how I took fatherhood. I always had the influence of my dad. Shout out to Marty.
Shout out to Marty.
Shout out to Marty there. My dad obviously had a huge influence on how I think about fatherhood. He's not just, I wouldn't say he's not just like a father. He's also my best friend.
And like your biggest fan. Like your parents are like your biggest fan.
Yeah,
They are like Team Ian all the way.
right. And I think having that confidence always built me up in terms of like, I can do anything. And, I can, anything that I think of, I can do. And they provided that base for me that,
I just had a picture of your dad like flash into my head. It just made me smile. It's just as a side note. I just started laughing a bit.
you're think of that. Yeah, so I guess I always appreciated him that he never really treated me like a kid, and they always, as I got older, he always treated me like an equal. So I think even today we still talk sports, like politics, well, but a lot of times it's talking about the granddaughters and how they're doing. But I think that relationships means a lot to me, and it's one of those things that I always thought about when I had Belle, is that I want to be that type of dad for Belle, my firstborn, and just always being there for her, and having a place that she can always open up and talk to, and being her biggest fan and being her biggest supporter. So I think having that foundation, having that base really helped me on my way of becoming a good dad.
Is there anything that I think all of our parents did the best job they could, and they probably did slightly better than their parents. And I think we're always trying to sort of improve, take little things that we noticed. And not just directly like from your dad, but is there anything that you thought like, I definitely don't want to do this, or I'm going to really try to do something a little different than what I saw or what I've seen other people do?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, I think, like I said, I'm pretty lucky because I think I had two great parents and a great father. Like I said, biggest supporter of me. Always instilled confidence in me. And then the one thing that I'm just kind of adding on with my kids, just to kind of take it to that next level, was really letting them take risks. I'm a big believer of taking risks and letting them, fall a couple times and letting them get hurt. I think that's really important, is to, I kind of think of it as like back to like climbing a tree. If it's like a 5-foot tree and there's grass underneath there, I'm going to take a step back a little bit and let them climb that tree on their own, and let them fall and let them make mistakes. I'm not that type of parent who's just going to step in and try to catch them every single moment. I think, my parents were there and really helped support and guided every single way. But I think I'm focusing right now on my two girls, is really trying to instill confidence in them in a different light, and really just trying to help them make their own mistakes. And it's kind of that balance of trying to teach them what I know, so they can kind of get a head start, but also trying to let them figure out on their own as well, and really instill their independence and confidence. And
Like to build up their resilience.
yeah,
Like so that the lessons can sink in for them, and they're not just being told that. I have to be better about letting Lucy like fall.
right,
I don't want to deal with the boo-boos.
Right.
I don't want to deal with that. But Lee is like a riskier physical player.
yeah,
I
yeah.
have to like leave the room sometimes because I'm like, she's going to fall on her head. And he's like, well, then she won't do it again. And I'm like, yeah, but who wants to deal with that? So I have to be better at that. That's something I'm trying to work
Yeah,
on.
I mean, that's like one of the biggest things that, like, a priority of mine is just trying to to monitor, but from afar,
Yeah.
and just try not to rush in every single time. When there's, at this age, let's try not to rush in every single time that something might go wrong. Just because I think I personally think that's gonna stunt their growth, and I think part of our job as parents is really just kind of stand close enough, but keep them safe in the same time, and let them learn, because I feel like that's really how you can build confidence. And I've seen it, whether it's Belle and Emma riding their bikes or ice skating, those little things that could be, not just to rush in every single time they fall, but let them get back up on their own and try it again. And I think I've seen some great strides on them, and how they ride bikes, how they go ice skating now, and different things like swimming, all those little things, those obstacles. I kind of stayed close, but from afar, if that makes sense.
I think that's awesome. I think that's really cool. And I think it does help prepare them for the world. It gives them the skills they need to know that they can handle some things on their own and figure it out. Because that, I think, like that, what you said is really important. We're really trying to prepare them
Yeah.
to not need us, even though we want them to need us, but we need to prepare them not to.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of the quote, where what I learned from. It was, I'm not going to come up with this my own, but I got it from another book I read. But it says, one of the hardest parts of being a dad is realizing that you're spending their childhood learning how to live with them, while at the same time your job is to teach how to live without you. So I think
Yeah.
that was pretty powerful when I read that. Is that I'm going through this whole journey with them, how to live with them, but at the same time, at some point, I'm trying to also teach them how to live without me. And so that was a little tough reading that, just because, like, yeah, like at one point they are going to go out into the crazy world, and they're not going to need me. But right now is the core time of me trying to help them and trying to figure out how to live with them as a dad, but also instill confidence, and also how to support them, so when they do live without me, that they know what to do, and have that base behind them.
Yeah. How do you think when you first became a dad, or not maybe in the first few months, because that's a really hectic time, but when Belle was younger, how do you think did your friendships change? Like, were your friends having kids at the same time, or how did that affect any of your friendships?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think obviously, kind of when you become a dad, you kind of start to gravitate towards, you know, who has kids and who doesn't. Your friendships start to get attracted to more dads who have kids, just because you guys are going through it, and you're going through, day in and day out. So, my community, I guess you could tell it, my village looks a lot different than, now, than it did before kids, because again, a lot of my friendships were grown out of my kids' lives, whether it was like school events or parties, or just like the neighborhood stuff around here. And you start seeing the same parents over and over again, and those relationships, a lot of them have turned into real friendships. I have a very core group here, where I live, that all turned out to be from my friends' parents and dads specifically. So we call ourselves the pod dads. Shout out to the pod dads. Because of what happened during COVID,
Yeah.
at lockdown, you kind of had to find your people. And specifically for Belle, we had to figure out for her education. This was pre-K, and we needed to figure out a way to educate her, and have a place to, where, while we didn't want to have a place over Zoom, we wanted to actually have like a teacher. So, 5 of our closest friends, they had, a teacher for her. We got one teacher for all these kids, and all the dads became really close, and all the kids became really close, and all the mothers became really close. But out of that, we got a core group of dads, and we call ourselves the pod dads, who we still meet on a regular basis. But it's just cool to see how having kids really shift your focus, but also more shift personally, kind of, where, your friends are and who they're with. So, and a lot of times now, most of my friends now are dads, because, you're going through something, you're talking with other dads, and, you're really kind of you're juggling the act between work, family, responsibilities, and you don't have to explain everything that they're living too. So you already have an immediate bond, and you can just those friendships are kind of accelerated because of that immediate bond.
In those early years of becoming a new dad,
Yeah.
where you didn't really know what was going on and you're figuring it out as you go, are there conversations that you wish had been going on, or something that you wish like you'd been able to talk about, or that people were talking about that they just weren't? Like, was there information you wish you had that you could have talked about that you didn't?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no.
Looking back,
Said like, for instance, like any types there was books or material, like I read all that stuff, and as soon as I had Bell, I felt like it just like I completely forgot everything. Like I feel like everybody's journey is, um, they kind of make it their own. Obviously, you hear like different things, and I think my main thing is that the one thing I heard is that just because you have a baby, you made a baby, doesn't make you doesn't make you a father. You know what I mean? Um, Now you could be you could be like a baby daddy. You could be, you could be the one that, the papa daddy, whoever you made the baby, but it doesn't make you a father. And I think the biggest thing that I was given advice from my dad, from my father-in-law, some other friends, was that it's time, and it's about showing up. And I think that's the most important theme that I got, was that it's not just about, you're these kids' dads, but it's about showing up, making time, even for the little things, whether it's just showing up for anything, even just the little things of just showing up at a school function or whatnot. It's those little things that the kids really remember, and it's about your time and balancing your personal life in terms of your time, but also devoting time towards their life. And I think that really resonated with me, and I think more now than ever, because I think dads now are doing that, which is great to see, as opposed to dads, when we were kids, or, older than that, in 30, 40 years ago. I think it's so cool to see that now, because of our, hybrid work style or whatnot, dads are showing up. Dads are coming to those midday, parties at school. And so again, that was valuable advice to me. Was just, it's always about showing up and spending your time for them. And that's that key goal that I've always used and still use today. And I think it's vital even for new dads.
so you mentioned a little bit. So today you have two daughters. What did anything change from your first to your second? Was there anything that really surprised you? I mean, every baby is different.
Yeah.
And I think every experience is a little different. And I only have one, so I don't know from one to the other. But was there anything that surprised you round two?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a little bit easier in some ways and harder in some other ways, but easier just because, you've been through it. Again, my kids are 9 and 7, so we already had the 2 years, but the first one, naturally you're a nervous wreck because you don't know what is what. Like, you don't know what's the temperature of the water in the bottle. Is this the right formula? Are they supposed to be sleeping like that? Is this,
Are they breathing? Are they breathing?
for the first month, I think I just went over there. Like, me and Lee always went over there like every 15 minutes just to check if she was, just put a finger on her nose to see if she.
Yeah.
But those things really go out the window a little bit. The guardrails aren't as much up for the second one, naturally, just because you've been through that struggle, you've been through that war per se. So you kind of know what to expect, especially those I guess those first 6 months, and just when it's like very critical of just trying to keep this thing alive, and just
Yeah.
making sure it's surviving. I think that was the biggest thing, is that me and Lee just developed a comfort and a confidence of, we got this, we know what to do now. Whereas the first one is, we had really, we thought we knew what to do, but we were still trying to figure it out. And I think having that second one just helped figure out as well. I'm an only child as well. And so, there's great things that I've, that have shaped me because I'm an only child, a lot of self-confidence and a lot of great decision making. But I think the biggest thing is that we wanted, Belle to have like a forever friend, and a playmate. And, we were lucky enough to have a second. And, now things obviously shifted a little bit. It's chaotic and crazy, but they always have each other. And we're thankful that one day that, when they're on their own, that they have each other to, that support system to help one another. And I think that's really cool to see that they have such a great friendship. But as parents, I think at the newborn phase, it was a little bit easier. But as they got older, it was a lot harder because everything is just, it's always, well, everything has to be 50-50. Everything has to be perfectly even, and everything has to be exactly how, if I have a spaghetti and two meatballs, she has to have spaghetti and two meatballs. Everything has to be exactly even to this day. So, it's there's pros and cons, but obviously wouldn't have it any other way. And it's been really cool to see kind of how they grow, not from my eyes, but kind of see how their friendship and how they've been evolving as well.
This is kind of a side note and just something I'm curious about. As a dad, and as you're teaching them and you're hoping that they develop a bond between the two of them, are there things that you do as a parent to help them to like each other more? Did they always like each other? Have they always liked each other? Are there things that you like tell them, like, you guys need to love each other or work it out? Because I feel like my parents were like, just don't touch each other. Just stay away from each other. Don't touch each other. Don't look at each other. Don't breathe on each other. And I think my sister and I are closer now in our later years, but I didn't feel that growing up. So I'm just wondering, like,
Yeah.
do you encourage them to like love and lean on each other?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to force that. I mean, I've always said like, well, that's your sister. You can't say that to her. You can't, or you can't. You don't put your hands on her. That's your sister. You should love her. I mean, and they know that that's just whatever. I mean, you can't force that type of. You can't force that on them. I mean, but I personally and me and Leah we're extremely lucky because again they do everything together and because they're so close in age, they do have so much fun together. I think the biggest thing that we've tried to instill in them is to work it out on their own and just to problem solve on their own. Try to, instead of going to mommy and daddy and running to us right away, try to work out these issues on your own. And I think that helps kind of build themselves up to see, how to deal with conflict and how to deal with resolution. And so that's the one thing they definitely love each other. They definitely, even when we brought home Emma for the first time in Bell, she wasn't one of those kids who was like crying or upset because she had to share this new person with everybody else. She's very maternal as well. She's going to be, I know I can already tell that she's going to be a great mother, but she helps she always helped with the bathing. She always just helped get us stuff and things for when she was first born. So it was just so cute to see how she contributed as well. So I mean, the love is definitely there. Obviously, the fighting is never going to end. I think that's just one of those things of sharing a household with two different girls, so girls in such close age. I think that's just natural. But I think the theme that we're trying to instill in them is just to kind of work things out on their own. Whether that doesn't always happen like that. But we try to instill problem solving on them and try to see if they can find the best method on their own rather than just going straight to us.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
So you described your sort of dad village even now as sort of these pod dads. Is there any other dads that make up your dad village, or was it primarily like these pod dads and maybe these other people you're trying to
No,
get in?
It's definitely other dads. I think just naturally I have core friends that I made individually, but then a lot of it is my kids' parents who eventually became my friends as well, my dads as well. So it's kind of a hybrid, a mix of a bunch of dads. But I think it's important to have that base of dad, just because, like I said, everyone's going through it. Even the best of fathers, we're all going through, everyday struggles, in terms of job, finances, what have you. And I think a lot of times, I think dads are looked to as they have everything together. They don't need any help. And I think that's just a total lie. I think every single dad should always have some type of vulnerability and not be afraid to ask for help. And so I think it's very important to have a platform, have a place to open up with other dads. I think we all do it in various ways, whether it's going out to the bar or going out to play a round of golf or what have you. But rarely does it ever come up about specifics about what's going on in the house or how it is with being a dad. And I think my goal is to take it a step further and actually just have a place and have a platform and have the direct goal of a time slot or a place where dads can just talk about everyday stuff with other dads. And it takes time, and it takes kind of like I said, a vulnerability and kind of a way to open up. But I think I'm trying to enable that with other dads, and so far it's been very healthy, and I think so far it's been great. But I'm still trying to continue the conversation and kind of opening up that dad village. Just like you said, it's important to lean on others, whether it's your friends or family in your village. But I think even with dads, it's important to lean on other dads, and to have their own village so they can, just go through the everyday life of become a dad.
What do you think I mean, I think you hit on it a little bit, but the difference between like one of your male friends and then like a dad friend, do you find yourself at this stage in your life like gravitating more towards one or the other, or how does that like play into it? Like, what do you think
No,
those relationships are like?
no, it's like I have I would say a lot of my non-dad friends are like my core friends that I grew up with before becoming a dad. So a lot of those friends are core friends. They're going to be are lifelong friends, even if they're not a dad. They're still core friends who that make up who I was and who I am today. So I always share that valuable bond. But just as I have that valuable bond with that person or those people who aren't dads, I think I gravitate now, and especially new friendships, towards dads, and because again, that's such a strong bond and such a commonality because they're going through it. The juggling act, as I like to put it, between the work, the family, the responsibilities. I mean, they get it right away, and being a dad is such a core part of my life. I mean, I walk out the door just like dad is such a core part of me. So it's hard to make new friendships.
Without bringing that up, or do you find that like
Going,
when you're talking to your non-dad friends, you talk about that stuff just inherently?
no,
I think moms have a really hard time with that. Like where no matter what we try to talk about, we're always bringing it back to the kids, and then we're like, oh shit, I didn't mean to mention the kids, but it just happens.
well, there's some. I mean, and in some people, like I try not to bring that up as well. I mean, there's some friends who just don't want kids, and that's fine.
They
And
don't want to hear about them. They're like, I don't
yeah,
want to hear.
I have some friends like who wanted kids and they couldn't have kids, and that's a whole other topic, but which is just it's just one of those things that like I don't want to bring up my kids, and I guess I try not to. I kind of stray away from bringing up my kids and the joy I get from my kids, because I think it would be something that just brings up maybe a sour note with them, especially the ones that wanted kids but can't have kids. Because it's a tough topic, and it's just one of those things. I feel like I try to keep that aside, and even though it's very hard for me because now as a dad, it's just having kids and it's such a core part of my life that it's hard not to bring those things up. But I do try I obviously want to include them in my life in terms of how they're doing, but I don't bring up the everyday stuff and the typical stuff from a day-to-day perspective, just because that's our friendship grew on something before non-kids, and so I think I try to kind of hide that piece of me, for better or for worse, really.
Yeah, I mean, I totally hear what you're saying, but I think that is also what makes these dad friendships so special, is because you can be your like authentic in the moment self. And but we do have these relationships that we made when we were younger that have nothing to do with like who we are really now. But I think you do hope that they can evolve and include all of that, but sometimes they can't. So I think it's nice. It's important that you also have like a dad support system to be able to really let it all hang out in that
Yeah,
way.
hanging out. When we went to the spa, I was hanging out.
Gross.
No, these places, I guess that's why I like hanging out, and I like as a dad, like we don't really, dads don't have like a text chain, or like we don't call up, dads don't really call up other dads like, hey, like how you doing? Like we
You
don't.
could.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you could. I'm just saying, like traditionally,
Right.
it's not like in our DNA where a dad's just gonna pick up the phone and call another dad and just say, hey, how's it going? Like it doesn't work that way typically. So the way for me personally, in terms of hanging out with dads, because I think it's so beneficial to understand kind of what they're going through is just really just through events and through just hanging out, watching even just like watching a game. While the primary focus is to watch the game, it's kind of the underlying is just to kind of talk about checking in, like, hey, how's it going? I think the
To like
one,
make a point to add that to the conversation.
yeah, I make it a point, but the conversation, but we don't have like a formal, there's not a formal setting where this is what we're going to talk about, and this is what we're going to, for 60 minutes, this is what we're going to talk about is, how you're doing with on a day-to-day basis as being a dad. Whereas it's kind of the underlying message that you're going to talk about, but the main focus to get them into I guess to get them in there is really to watch a game or to go golfing or go out to the bar. But like I said, not every dad is comfortable, and I think the challenge for men and fathers is, again, as I mentioned, is that we always feel like we're supposed to have everything together, and I think the truth is nobody really has this thing figured out. Nobody. And I think just because you're open doesn't make you a weaker person or a weaker father. And in fact, I think it makes you a better one. And I think that's the point that I'm trying to hit home with myself and hit home with others, is that just because you open up doesn't make you a weaker person or a weaker parent. In fact, it's the opposite. It makes you a better father. I learned amazing things from my father, my friends, and my dad and my in-laws, because we had that dialogue, that open dialogue, and they've taught me things. We shared things back and forth that have made me become a better dad today. So I think it's, in fact, the more you talk about it, the more you open up, it is actually going to round you out and make you a better father in the end. So it's my next goal again is just to have a forum where this is what we're solely focusing on, is talking about what you're going through from a day-to-day perspective, whether it's positive, negative, really just anything. But dad just talking to other dads about dad stuff.
Well, I think that's a really good point because I think past generations have been like, I think when raising boys, they're like, toughen up, don't cry, be brave, be strong, like just go do this. And I think with girls, it's like, be polite, be this, like, don't, just like be nice, be like a good girl.
Yeah.
And I think that those are really damaging messages because I think little boys and little girls need examples of really like healthy vulnerability. And I think that parents today are providing safer places for kids to explore that. At least I hope. And it sounds like that's the environment you're creating. And I think by you being vulnerable and opening up, and at some point, I'm sure do your kids see you like asking for help or saying like, I don't have all the answers? Do you think
Yeah.
you show that vulnerability around them?
Well, it's funny you mentioned I have shown that recently, just because my oldest, Belle, who's 9, she is like as quick, she is like on it, and she knows exactly everything. Like she just has like a perceived, she knows exactly what's going on at all times. She's very observational. She gets it, and she can read through people like night and day, and she can especially read through me. And before I used to always say, yeah, I have everything going on. Everything's perfect. Don't worry. Everything's great.
Because you want them to feel safe. I think that's the idea, right? You want them to feel safe and stable.
I noticed like they want to have that. She definitely needs a place that she feels safe in, a safe setting. She definitely thrives when she knows that the people around her or the place she's in is very safe, and that's what makes her comfortable. But lately, it's funny that you mentioned it. Lately, I have shown a little bit of my cracks, in terms of where I am vulnerable. And I think I purposely have done that just to show her that I'm a real person. And yes, I'm your dad. I'm going to be here to take care of you and support you. But even people my age, even adults and even dads, we don't know everything that's going on. And my main mission in doing that is to show her that it's okay to raise your hand. It's okay to speak up. It's okay to question something and ask for help. And because my main goal is to show her that not everybody is perfect. Not everyone has everything going on. Even at this stage of life, I don't have anything going on. I
No, we
don't,
don't know all the answers. We
I don't
don't
know.
know.
Especially myself, I'm definitely not all the answers, but I've been showing her that I don't have the answers too, and it's okay to raise your hand and ask for help. And she's even done that, like even in class, like she was having some issues with something, and she actually emailed her teacher. She emailed her teacher, like one night and said, "I'm having issues with this one problem in math. I feel like I'm getting left behind. Can you please help me?" And I was just like taken back, and me and Lee were just like, "Oh my God, that's amazing that." She isolated that she figured that she had a problem in her own, but two, that she raised her hand, she took it upon herself to ask for help. And I think that was just an amazing development in her character, is that it's okay when you don't know something, and it's okay if that you feel uneasy about something, to ask for help. And that's kind of how I been showing them that I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything. And when I don't, it's okay that we lean on others to ask for help. And I think she got that. And I hope I had a little bit of part of making that up for her. So it's been really cool to see that as well.
I think that's really beautiful. I think the more that we can try not to be perfect or act perfect, I think, we do want to feel like we have it all together. But I think it is really important for our kids to see that we also, like you said, need help. And then for them to see how we ask for help,
Yeah.
who we're going to call and lean on and how we ask for help. Because I think asking for it and receiving it is a skill that is learned. I think a lot of people have trouble receiving help,
Yeah.
and they would be really quick to help somebody else, and they wouldn't think twice about it. But asking for that help themselves can be really difficult. So to see that you are modeling that for her, I think is really special. That really
I
warms
mean,
my heart to hear.
some of the advice I even got for, like, because I'm always like thinking ahead of like, okay, what's the next step going to be? And I'm thinking about these like teenage years, which people always said buckle up because it's going to be a wild, wild one. But I think even like, when now the challenges are a bit different. Like I was just talking to my one friend who's older than me that has kids, 16, 17, 18, and they're talking about like even drinking. And it just like reminded me of when I was a kid. Like my parents were always say, we don't care how much, we don't care like what you've done. Just always call us no matter what. So like if you're drinking at a party and something, you can't get a ride home or there's something wrong, we're not going to be mad that you're asking for help. We'd rather you ask us for help than do it on your own, and it could be a lot worse. So I think that's another key that I've been carrying with me, is that I want to have a safe space for my daughters, that no matter what they think I'm going to think of, I want them to always ask me for help, despite how much trouble they're in. So I think that, they're going to go through it. Obviously, me and you went through it ourselves as teenagers, and we were in some shady places at points in times, but I want them to know that they're not going to be alone, and that doesn't matter how much trouble they're in. They always have a place that they can ask for help, and I'll pick them up at 3 a.m, wherever they are. But I want them to ask for me and make sure that they're in a safe space there.
Yeah, I agree. Even now, when Lucy, like, there's little things and she's like, "Are you mad?" I'm like, "No, I'm never mad. Like, just let me know." Or if you break something or, something like that, like, you can always tell me and we'll always try to figure it out together. We'll figure out, like, what the next move is. So I feel like at 4.5, I'm trying to, like, do that now with her. What do you think? So friendships is also like a huge part of your life. And what do you think you are helping them to learn about building friendships and relying on your friends and maybe looking for in friendships? Obviously, you can't like really dictate, but I feel like, they can watch you and Lee make friendships or you make them and see like, oh, those are maybe the types of friends I should be making. Like, is that something you're thinking about?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I always love it when my friends come over and they see kind of how I like I say how I'm interacting with my friends and having a strong support system. I mean, I think that's crucial. I think they see that I want them to see that friendships obviously take effort, and it's even strong people lean on others to get what they need and support. So I think that's a huge thing that we're trying to model for for our daughters. Um, it's just one of those things that, everybody needs a support system. I think at their age, friendship is just really about having fun and, you know, playing kickball with each other and having a good time. Whereas at our stage, and even as they get older, friendships are a lot more complicated, and they devote time and they devote a little bit of push and pull. So I think I try to have my friends over and just see them, have them see us talk and just what it takes to have a friend and in terms of doing that. And I think that's would go a long way with them. But it's obviously the main goal for them is to see that friendships take time and friendships are very crucial. Um, just because you need that support system, even when you're, like I said, even when you're strong and you're confident, you still need friends to lean on in some of those dark days.
Yeah, I think that's really great. I have no doubt that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. What kind of things do you do as a dad? Either little traditions or like Father's Day is coming up. Like,
Yeah.
what do you do to spend time with them, just like you and them, just dad time? Do you have like specific dad time?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we I try to carve out dad time, and there's things that Lee does with them, like getting their nails done and different things like that. And there's things that kind of like this is the dad stuff. And I think one of the cool things that I've seen is that the most meaningful times that I've had with my daughters are really the simplest. It's really the simple stuff. It's not about going on these crazy vacations or whatnot, but it's really the simple stuff like, going to the movies, like on a Saturday night and watching movie. Like I show them a lot of the old movies that we grew up with in the '90s, which is cool. I get to relive the movie through their eyes, and they get to, and it's just a really cool thing. Getting ice cream, going on bike rides a big important thing to me. I'm a huge biker, and just going for a bike ride with daddy is a big important thing and a tradition that we do. In terms of when it starts to get nice out, that's just a way for them not only to get exercise but just to spend time with me and to talk about what's going on in school, what's going on with their friends, what's been on your mind. So bike rides have been crucial. I think the main goal for me is really kind of doing one-on-one time with them. I think I try to spend as much one-on-one time with them as much as possible to make them feel special. So, like for instance, I try to take just Emma out just for some ice cream and going somewhere fun together, and then for Belle, I would take her maybe shopping in her favorite store, Sephora, and go in there. And she's a little bit more expensive right now than Emma, but I think the goal of mine is just to those traditions is just really to spend some one-on-one time. We each have one-on-one time. Belle's my wing partner. We like to eat wings together, and Emma, we do other things together. So it's just really cool to have. I try not to look at them as just one unit,
Right.
but I try to look at them as individuals on one-on-one, and I try to kind of cater to their likes and have that one-on-one time with them. And it's been really really cool to see, and I think it's been super valuable. Lee's really good, at making family traditions as well and making sure we kind of spend that quality time together. And it's really, those really quality times is really the memories I think that the kids think about. I don't think the kids think about the new toys or whatever, but it's really those movies that we watch together on a rainy night. It's really kind of spending time on the beach. It's really like those bike rides. I think it's just really those small things that become core memories and kind of shape them who they are today. So that's just one thing in the back of mind. It's to keep it's the simple things that matter most when it comes time to making traditions.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And those bike rides and things as they get older, I think that when you do stuff like that, it relaxes people, and then like you hear about their day or you hear about their friends instead of just like a tell me about what's going
Yeah.
on with you kind of way. It just sort of comes out organically, and that's when you really get an idea of what's going on. So I think that's really great.
Yeah.
That's really great. As we sort of wrap up here, I think when if you could give new dads any sort of advice or tips, anything like that, what would you say? What would you say to them?
Wow. That's a tough question.
Not advice on like parenting, but on how
Yeah.
how you might show up or how you might ask for help or support or I don't know.
No, it's a good question. I think, like I said, I think I still have some younger friend dads who always ask me like, what advice do you have? And I'm like, well, you're going to the wrong
Just hang
person.
on, hang in
I
there.
just tell them based on what I've gone through, and I think just as a reflect, I often reflect on my kind of journey. It's been, Belle's now 9 and Emma's 7, so it's been almost 10 years of this dad journey. But I think the biggest thing is that being supported now means realizing that you don't have to carry everything alone. I think those first couple years was like, okay, I'm a dad, I have to do this by myself, and I think it's okay to, just like I told Belle, it's okay to raise your hand and ask for help. I think the biggest advice for new dads would be that don't try to do this fatherhood thing yourself. I mean, it's just going to be a complete failure, and you don't have to do it by yourself. I think that a big key is to lean on your partner. Lee, luckily, my wife Lee is an amazing mother. I think that helps like 99% of me becoming a good father, just because she's so amazing, and she kind of set the platform and set the base for me, and it makes it so easy for me. But I think you really do need to lean on your partner and stay, and talk about your vulnerabilities. About, okay, well, I'm having a really tough time doing this. Can you do this? Or I'm having a tough time. What would you recommend? Lean on your partner. I think that's completely huge. I think a lot of people think that as soon as you have a kid, your marriage is going to be exponentially better, and it's going to be so much better, and that's completely false. It takes time. It takes a lot of rebuilding, but you have to lean on your partner and not just pretend like you have everything figured out.
Yeah.
And
I think people think that, I don't know, but I would imagine maybe some men think that if they tell their wives, like, I'm having a hard time,
yeah,
that their wife will, like, get nervous that they don't have it together or think less of them. And I think it would actually be the opposite because, maybe that wife is also having a tough time. And really what they need to do is just open up the communication
yeah,
and just figure out a way to do it together better.
and it goes back to what I said kind of earlier, is that when you ask for help or you try to, lean on the other person, it's not a defect at all. It's
Right.
not something that's wrong with you or a failure. And I always think that it's such a positive. I think when you lean on your partner, you talk to other dads, you open up about what you're going through, I think it's the complete opposite. And it just shows that you want to become a better person. You want to become a better husband. You want to become a better father, because you're challenging yourself. You're trying to figure out how I can become a better person, and then in reality, that better person that shows up for your daughters or your kids. And I think you realize pretty quickly that everyone is figuring it as they go, and no one has all the answers. I think a lot of times we look at social media, we look at Facebook, we look at Instagram, and it's all these amazing pictures of these nice families on the beach and everything's perfect. But what they don't show you is the thing on Facebook or Instagram is it 2 o'clock in the morning and your kid gets up and they have a cold and the other one's screaming and crying, and your wife is asking you for this, and you have a meeting tomorrow at 6 a.m. You don't see those things on Instagram. You don't see those things on Facebook. And you only see the best of the best on those social media platforms. So you have to constantly remind yourself is that, everybody is going through this together, and no one has this thing figured out, especially fatherhood. And that's why it's so crucial to talk to other dads to kind of just help this journey and to kind of just make yourself a better person overall.
Yeah, I couldn't. That was really well said. I was just thinking in my head, I saw something the other day. There's like a father group that came together to learn how to do little girls' hair, and they practice like on doll heads and like fake heads with hair, like braiding and putting their hair up, and so you know, I
Yeah,
think
well, that's
it's
the,
just kind of funny. There are like dads out there coming together, but I think from an emotional support standpoint, there's probably a big gap there.
yeah. I mean, it's one thing to become a dad, but it's another thing as becoming a dad of girls, which we could probably spend a whole nother episode of just what it's like becoming a dad of two girls. You know, I'm the only guy here in this house of girls and a wife, so I'm outnumbered. But I fully leaned in. I fully have come to realize that it's what it is. You know, this is my job is becoming a girl dad, and I love it, and I think it's an amazing thing. I actually have a t-shirt. I should have worn it today, but it's a girl. I love being a girl dad. I love taking.
I have
Um,
a picture of you in that shirt. I'll post it.
you could share that with. You could share that. I
I
yeah.
will.
I have fully leaned into the girl dad. I love. Um, you know, I love going to Sephora with them. I love hearing about their makeup tutorials. I love just everything where it means to be a girl and being their parent. I think one of the things that I had struggles with early on was that I was trying to make Belle and Emma like a mini version of myself. And that quickly subsided because I realized that they each have their own personalities. They each have their own interests. And you know, I learned that you know, being a dad in a lot of ways, you know, that sometimes my daughters are not like me, and that's okay. I mean, a lot of ways they are like me, but there's a lot of ways they aren't like me. And again, my job wasn't to turn them into like a version of me. And I don't know if I thought we went two more Ians in this. That might be a scary place, um, but I realized, you know, early on that it's my job to help shape who they are and support them as they're becoming their own people. And I think that's really rewarding as a parent. Is you know, before having girls, I knew nothing about different hairstyles or braids or color your nails or anything in kind of, you know, when you look into the girl scope of what it takes. And since having the girls, and now that they're 7 and 9, they're starting to become more involved into some of these girl traits. And I think it's just been so rewarding and so cool to see that they all have their own personalities. And obviously they take the core values that me and Lee have provided them, but they've taken those, but they've put a new spin on them, and they've done their own. They have their own traits. They have their own journeys.
Yeah, they're
And
their own little people.
right, and it's, I think early on, as another part of advice is to new dads, is you can't just convert them into mini versions of yourself or how you did things as a kid, but you have to let them navigate their world on their own, because they have their own personality and they have their own life and they have their own path. But it's our job to really kind of help shape that from afar, and not decide every single thing that they do and every single thing that, you know, what they're working on, but to really try to just help where they need to kind of navigate the journey on their own.
I think that's really great. I would love to watch you be a dad. I think it would be so fun to see.
Yeah, it's really fun. They put make I think the last time it snowed here, we were stuck in the house, and
They gave you a makeover?
I'll show you that picture. But I have a mini skirt on and a full makeup, and my hair done. I'll show you. I'll share it with you on a
Yeah,
private.
send it to me. Send it to me.
So not,
One more question before we go. If your daughters, when your daughters grow and have their own families and they're talking to their kids about their dad, what do you want them to say? Like, my dad is or was what?
yeah. Yeah, I think it goes back to what I said about time and showing up, and that's something that I've kept close to the vest, and a huge priority of mine. I want, at the end of the day, I hope that my daughters remember that I showed up. I was there for soccer practice. I was there for their school play. I was there for the 15-minute whatever at school. I want them to know that I'm always showing up. I want them to remember that they always felt loved. I want them to know that they were always supported, and that they were encouraged to just really just be their own person. I think it's just about, I think the main part is about showing up, and everything else really kind of falls in place. As long as you show up and you give your time and your effort, everything else really kind of falls in place, but it's really about showing up. I want them to not only think about me as a father, but kind of, I hope they remember how the example that me and Lee set together. I think that's a huge part as well. Seeing the partnership that we built, and how me and Lee, how we respect each other, how we support each other, how we're both present in their lives. I think that's a common thing that I really want them to lean on and show that, we developed and built this partnership, and um, as us as good parents, so they know how to choose, their prospective spouse when they get older, or know who to choose their partner when they grow up. So I hope that they remember that too. But I think at the end of the day, if I could say that I did my job right, I think it's about that they're strong and they're confident, and that they're never alone. I think that's the key goal there.
I think that's great. And I have no doubt that if you continue on this path, that's exactly what they would say.
Yeah.
I think that's really
Yeah,
special.
it is. I'm at I wouldn't say easy stage, but like I said, it's only been, 7 and 9 is, it's only been 10 years of fatherhood, but I would love to redo this podcast in 5 years and see how those values and how those different lessons I hope to instill have changed. I'm sure they'll tweak accordingly, but I think a lot of it is still me showing up. I think a lot of it is me trying for them to be confident and being they're strong, and I hope to be a strong role model. I think those core values, depending whether they're 9 or 90, I hope that that's something that they could still reflect on, and hope that they could still remember me as their dad.
I think they will. And I think, even into my adulthood, my dad was my hero and continues to be that in my life. And so, you are their hero now, and like the love of their life now. And I think that, that will still continue. So it might get challenging and they might tell you that it's not, but I think deep down it still will be. Well, thank you so much. I wish you a very happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
And I hope that we will talk soon. I'm sure we will. But I wish you a very happy Father's Day. And thank you again for sharing this. I think a lot of dads can relate. And I hope that it sparks just some conversation and some thought amongst fathers, new, old people thinking about becoming a father. And I think what you touched upon as far as setting an example of how to also be a really good partner is really important, because modeling that really healthy relationship is, I think, monumental. So,
Yeah, sure. Agreed.
Well, thank you so much. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. See you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for being a part of our village, and for taking the time to reflect on the father figures that have shaped your own story. If this episode brought someone to mind, please take a moment to reach out, to look up, or to share a memory with a friend. Until next time, continue to connect deeper, to honor those who have shaped you, and let's keep building something meaningful together. Talk soon.